The Battle of Megiddo, also known in Turkish as the Nablus Hezameta, the Nablus Yarmouth, was fought between 19 and 25 September 1918, on the plain of Sharon, in front of Tulkarm, Tabzor and Arara in the Judean hills, as well as on the Esdraelon plain at Nazareth, Afula, Basin, Jenin and Samak. The Battle of Megiddo was the final Allied offensive of the Sinai and Palestine campaign of the First World War. The contending forces were the Allied Egyptian Expeditionary Force, a three-corps including one of mounted troops, and the Ottoman Yildirim Army Group, which numbered 3 armies, each the strength of barely an Allied corps. The series of battles took place in what was then the central and northern parts of Ottoman Palestine and parts of present-day Israel, Syria and Jordan. After forces of the Arab revolt attacked the Ottoman lines of communication, distracting the Ottomans, British and Indian infantry divisions attacked and broke through the Ottoman defensive lines in the sector adjacent to the coast in the set-piece Battle of Sharon. The Desert-mounted corps rode through the breach and almost encircled the Ottoman 8th and 7th armies still fighting in the Judean hills. The Subsidiary Battle of Nablus was fought virtually simultaneously in the Judean hills in front of Nablus and at crossings of the Jordan River. The Ottoman Fourth Army was subsequently attacked in the hills of Moab at Es-Salt and Amman. These battles resulted in many tens of thousands of prisoners and many miles of territory being captured by the Allies. Following the battles, Daraa was captured on the 27th of September, Damascus on the 1st of October, and operations at Haratan, north of Aleppo, were still in progress when the Armistice of Mudros was signed, ending hostilities between the Allies and Ottomans. The operations of General Edmund Allenby, the British commander of the Egyptian Expeditionary Force, achieved decisive results at comparatively little cost, in contrast to many offensives during the First World War. Allenby achieved this through the use of creeping barrages to cover set-piece infantry attacks to break a state of trench warfare and then use his mobile forces to encircle the Ottoman army's positions in the Judean hills, cutting off their lines of retreat. The irregular forces of the Arab revolt also played a part in this victory. Background: the ancient fortress of Megiddo stands on Tel El Mutselem, at the mouth of the Musmas Pass near Al-Lajan, controlling the routes to the north and the interior by dominating the plain of Armageddon or of Megiddo. Across this plain several armies, from the ancient Egyptians to the French under Napoleon, had fought on their way towards Nazareth in the Galilean hills. By 1918 this plain, known as the Plain of Esdraelon, was still strategically important as it linked the Jordan Valley and the Plain of Sharon 40 miles behind the Ottoman front line, and together, these three valleys formed a semicircle round the main Ottoman positions in the Judean hills held by their 7th and 8th armies. Allied situation: the Entente powers had declared war on the Ottoman Empire in November 1914. In early 1915 and in August 1916 the Ottomans, with German commanders' aid and encouragement, had attacked the Suez Canal, a vital link between Britain and India, Australia and New Zealand, under General Archibald Murray. The British Egyptian Expeditionary Force stopped the Ottoman army at the Battle of Romani and drove them back to Magdaba and across the Sinai to Rafah to reoccupy Egyptian territory and secure the safety of the Suez Canal. Having constructed a railway and water pipeline across the desert, Murray then attacked southern Palestine. In the First Battle of Gaza and the Second Battle of Gaza in March and April 1917, the British attacks were defeated. In 1916, the Arab revolt against Ottoman rule had broken out in the Hejaz, led by Hussein bin Ali, Sharif of Mecca. Although the Ottomans defended Medina, at the end of the Hejaz railway against them, part of the Sharifan army, led by Hussein's son, the Emir Faisal, and British liaison officer T.E. Lawrence, extended the revolt northwards. Finally, Lawrence and Bedouin tribesmen won the Battle of Aqaba in July 1917. The capture of the port of Akaba allowed the Allies to supply Faisal's forces and deprived the Ottomans of a position behind the right flank of the EF. General Edmund Allenby had been appointed to succeed Murray in command of the EF, and was encouraged to renew the offensive. After receiving reinforcements, he broke through the Ottoman defences in the Third Battle of Gaza and defeated an Ottoman attempt to make a stand to the north at the Battle of Moga Ridge. Despite Ottoman counter-attacks, the EF captured Jerusalem in the second week in December 1917. After a pause of several weeks caused by bad weather and the need to repair his lines of communication, Allenby advanced eastward to capture Jericho in February 1918. However, in March, the Germans launched their spring offensive on the Western Front, intending to defeat the Allied armies in France and Belgium. Allenby was ordered to send reinforcements to the Western Front. Allenby's tank force was also returned to France. In total, approximately 60,000 officers and men were transferred to the Western Front in 1918. However, Allenby maintained pressure on the Ottoman armies by twice sending mounted and infantry divisions across the Jordan. The first attack briefly cut the Hejaz railway near Amman before the attackers retreated. In the second attack, Allenby's troops captured Es Salt on the road to Amman, but fell back when the communications were threatened. Despite these failures, Allenby had established two bridgeheads across the Jordan north of the Dead Sea which were retained during the ensuing occupation of the southern Jordan Valley. Ottoman situation. At the same time, the Ottoman command changed. The highest-level Ottoman headquarters in Palestine was the Yildirim Army Group. The Army Group had originally been formed to recapture Baghdad, which had been captured by the British in March 1917. Instead, it had been diverted to Palestine, where the British were close to capturing Jerusalem. The Army Group's commander was the German General Erich von Falkenhayn, who wished to continue a policy of yielding defense, rather than hold positions at all costs. He was also prepared to retreat to shorten his lines of communication and reduce the need for static garrisons. However, he was unpopular among Ottoman officers, mainly because he relied almost exclusively on German rather than Turkish staff officers, and was blamed for the defeats at Gaza and Jerusalem. He was replaced by another German general, Otto Lehmann von Sanders, who had commanded the Ottoman defense during the Gallipoli campaign. Lehmann reasoned that continued retreat in Palestine would demoralize the troops, ruin their draft animals, encourage the Arab revolt to spread further north into the Ottoman rear areas, and also lead to all the Ottoman forces to the south in the Hejaz being finally isolated. His forces halted their retreat and dug in to resist the British, even reoccupying some ground near the Jordan as Allenby's two raids across the Jordan were repulsed. Until late September 1918, the strategic situation of the Ottoman Empire appeared to be better than that of the other Central Powers. Their forces in Mesopotamia were holding their ground, while in the Caucasus they had captured Armenia, Azerbaijan and much of Georgia in an advance towards the Caspian Sea. Lehmann von Sanders was expected to repeat his defense of Gallipoli and defeat the British invasion in Palestine. However, some other commanders were worried about an assault on their extended front in Palestine. They wished to pull their troops back so an attack would have to cross undefended ground and lose any tactical surprise. However, Lehmann would have had to abandon what seemed to be good defenses and decided that it was too late to pull back. Allied reorganization. During the summer of 1918, Allenby's forces were built back up to full strength. Two British Indian Army cavalry divisions, the 4th Cavalry Division and 5th Cavalry Division, arrived from the Western Front and were reorganized to include one British Yeomanry regiment in 5 of their 6 brigades. Two Indian Infantry divisions, the 3rd Division and the 7th Division, were transferred from the Mesopotamian campaign to replace 2 divisions which had been sent to the Western Front. 4 of Allenby's infantry divisions were reformed on the pattern of British Indian Army, with 3 Indian and 1 British infantry battalion in each brigade except 1 brigade in the 53rd Division which had 1 British, 1 South African and 2 Indian battalions. The remaining British infantry division, the 54th Division, retained its all-British composition, although a brigade-sized detachment of French, North African and Armenian troops was attached to the division. There was a comparative lull in activity while Allenby's divisions were reorganized and retrained, but some local attacks were made, especially in the Judean Hills. On the 19th of July, the Ottomans and Germans mounted a brief attack at Abu Tellul near the Jordan, but were defeated by Australian light horse regiments with heavy casualties to the German 11th Reserve Jaeger Battalion, which was subsequently withdrawn from Palestine. Arab Northern Army. As Allenby's reorganization proceeded, the Arab Northern Army was operating east of the Jordan under the overall leadership of the Emir Faisal. Faisal's headquarters were at Abir el-Lisan, about 15 miles southwest of the Ottoman position at Man, and his army received support from the British through the port of Aqaba. Assistance to Faisal included liaison officers, detachments of armored cars, Indian machine gunners and a French-Algerian mountain battery. 2,000 camels from 3 disbanded battalions of the Imperial Camel Corps Brigade, weapons, ammunition and above all, money. In mid-1916, this had started as a monthly subsidy of £30,000. By the time Allenby launched his Megiddo offensive, it had grown to £220,000 a month. The 4,000 regular soldiers of the Arab Northern Army maintained a blockade of the Ottoman garrison at Man after an unsuccessful attack at Al-Samna. Earlier in the year, they were commanded by Jafar Pasha, formerly an Ottoman officer who had been sent to lead a rebellion against the British by the Senussi in Egypt, but had joined the Arab revolt after being captured. Most of these regulars were former Arab conscripts in the Ottoman army who had deserted or, like Jafar, had changed sides after becoming prisoners of war. Meanwhile, Arab irregulars raided the Hejaz Railway from Abir el-Lisan and Aqaba, often accompanied by Lawrence and other British liaison officers. In particular, in the weeks following the failure of Allenby's second attack across the Jordan, they carried out demolitions on an 80-mile stretch of line around Mudawara, due east of Aqaba, effectively closing the line for a month and ending Ottoman operations around Medina at the end of the railway. I do not for one moment denigrate the good name of Lawrence, nor detract from his leadership in the Arab revolt in Arabia in harassing the Turks, blowing up trains, etc. But when it came to cooperation with Allenby's forces, the Arabs under Lawrence had, in my experience, nuisance value only.